Awesome. Thank you all for joining us. I know it's a busy week, it's an exciting week for about Digital Inclusion Week, and I'll talk a little bit more about that if it's your first time participating in Digital Inclusion Week. But thank you for joining us. This is our second NDIA event for the week. And if you're here to learn about digital equity essentials and inclusion work, then you are in the right spot. Some housekeeping before we begin. Like I said earlier, this presentation is being recorded. It will be uploaded, and afterwards, I will send out the recording and our presentation slides and additional resources in an email afterwards. Go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. Go ahead and share your name, pronouns, and organizations. We find that during these Digital Inclusion 101 webinars, people kind of learn from each other and connect with each other even through the chat. All right, so here is our agenda for the next hour. I'm going to first introduce National Digital Inclusion Alliance. If you haven't heard of us before, I'll also talk about Digital Inclusion Week, and then we'll dive right into the definitions that are essential in understanding the digital equity movement. We'll talk about the different barriers to digital inclusion. We'll do an activity using Padlet. So I want to hear from y'all about, what are barriers that you're seeing from your community members that is making it difficult for them to connect online. And then we'll cover some solutions that our community has found in terms of addressing these digital inclusion issues. And then we'll head over to talk about the Digital Navigator program. We'll also talk about digital inclusion coalitions, and then we will talk about policy that is relevant. All right, so let me introduce myself. Hi, everybody. I am Pamela, she, they. I'm the Training and Community Engagement Manager with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. If some of y'all have attended our community calls or any kind of public-facing community event, it's usually me who you'll be seeing in the front seat. So I'm really happy to be here. I do these digital inclusion webinars bi-monthly, and I really enjoy, training new folks who are coming into this field. It's always like bright-eyed folks that want to do the most and kind of want some direction. And next, we have Shauna Edson. So Shauna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Shauna Edson. It's great to be here with you today and happy Digital Inclusion Week. I'm the Senior Policy Manager here at NDIA, so I work with policy and creating resources to help folks in our community understand current policies and advocacy. And I'll be talking about the policy section today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shauna. And all right, so let's start off with Digital Inclusion Week. Happy Digital Inclusion Week to all of you. For those who are new or might not be familiar with Digital Inclusion Week, it's an annual week of awareness, recognition, and celebration of the digital inclusion efforts we've made in our communities throughout the year. So during this week, organizations and individuals across the country host special events and campaigns to promote and increase digital equity in their communities. So you'll see organizations share community stories about the impact of digital inclusion. A lot of storytelling here happening from community members sharing, the impact of attending a digital inclusion workshop or a device distribution event. You'll also see City Hall, government buildings, or a bridge light up in teal in support of digital inclusion. You'll see organizations partner with each other and host conferences and summits and community events. And you'll also see organizations or local government launching a new program. The theme this year is Stronger Together, Mobilizing Towards Sustainability. It's our 8th year of Digital Inclusion Week, and it's powered by NDIA and the Digital Inclusion Week National Planning Committee. We've hosted a few events this week, and you're attending one of them. And our last event is going to be tomorrow. I'll talk more about that later, but it will be about the newly published Digital Inclusion Program Manual, how you can use it, and what it's all about. So that'll be tomorrow, Thursday, October 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we do have some resources. I believe they should be available in the chat of our presentation slides, as well as links to a resource document where you can see all of the resources that are available, including where you can register your Digital Inclusion Week event if you are hosting an event. So I believe they should be in the chat shortly. And also, I want to give a special thanks to our premier sponsors. We're immensely grateful for our dedicated sponsors for their unwavering commitment to digital inclusion during Digital Inclusion Week and beyond. So special thank you to Comcast, Dell Technologies, and Verizon. Awesome. Thank you so much, Shauna. So in the chat, you can see the presentation slides if that is easy for you to kind of walk alongside it. And then you'll be able to see a resource document that we have that lists out all of the resources and kind of categorizes them to help you in your new journey. And let's talk about NDIA. So NDIA stands for the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and we advance digital equity by supporting community programs and equipping policymakers to act. We are a nonprofit, and we represent and serve more than 1,900 US affiliates. We officially reached 1,900 affiliates this week, so our community is growing strong, and we definitely want you to be a part of that if you aren't already. In our community, we also include 41 tribal entities and organizations in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia, American Samoa, Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands in affordable broadband, access to devices, and digital skills training and support. So here at NDIA, we host a number of ways that we can knowledge share with each other. So we have our monthly community calls. That's every third Friday of the month. We also have working group meetings, which we'll share more on how you can get involved later in the presentation. And we also have our very popular NDIA listserv. And so from there, people share what they're learning, any issues and struggles, best practices, and we draw major themes from that and align our advocacy efforts in them. So here is our QR code. Go ahead and scan that for the NDIA resource page. It's also a link in the chat as well. And this will cover all of the resources and more that we covered today. So it's all in one document if you, so you don't have to frantically save all the things that are happening in the chat for them. It's all in one document for you. Awesome. So let's cover some essential definitions. First up, we have the digital divide. So this is the gap between those who have affordable access, skills, and support to effectively engage online and those who do not. And the digital divide disproportionately affects those who are already impacted by oppressive systems like racism, ableism, classism, age discrimination, and much more. And the digital divide also profoundly impacts vulnerable populations. So the Digital Equity Act in 2021 lists 8 different covered populations. So these are historically communities who have historically experienced lower rates of computer and internet use. So those are people who are 60 years of age or older, incarcerated individuals, veterans, members of a racial or ethnic minority group, rural residents, individuals with a language barrier, including those who are English learners or have a low literacy level, and individuals living in households with incomes not exceeding 150% of the poverty level. So the digital divide, that gap, it exists mainly because of the widespread underinvestment in broadband infrastructure, especially in low-income communities. And our friends over at The Markup, they published a study and found that 15 cities that were historically redlined, they also disproportionately received slow internet speeds. So digital equity, this is the goal. This is why we do the work that we do. It's so that everybody in our community can get connected online quickly and use the internet in the way that they want to. We never prescribe, we never force people to use the internet, but if they want to, we want to make sure that they have the access and ability to do that. So, you know, they can use the internet that has a strong connection and not have to worry about if they can afford next month's bill, not have to worry about if their device is up to date, has the necessary operating system to connect to a, I don't know, legal session or counseling appointment or things like that, or also have the skills to know how to safely navigate the internet. And so why are we focusing on the word equity? And that is because the word equity, it acknowledges that systemic barriers exist and must be addressed when we're looking to achieve equity for all communities. So you might have seen an image similar to this. On the left side is what equality represents. So there's 6 books in both of these pictures. On the left side, the 6 books is distributed evenly throughout these 3 people, or you can look at each individual as segments of our communities. And then on the right side is equity. there's still 6 books, but as you can see, it's redistributed in a way where people can actually somewhat start on a closer starting point as everybody else, right? It doesn't, it's looking at the unique needs of each member or each community type and making sure that we're distributing our resources appropriately. So as digital inclusion practitioners, this looks like looking at the unique needs of what our community has. So making sure that our trainers are either coming from that lived experience or coming from that same community as the community that you're serving, or they can speak that same language. Other ways to make your digital inclusion programming more equitable is looking at the location of your digital inclusion event. Is it in a place that is accessible for everybody? Is it in a place that the community, your target community feels safe in going to? Can they easily access it through public transportation? Is there a cost to your event? If it's free, or if there is a cost, who is that excluding, and is it excluding the target population that you're wanting to serve? So how to really understand what equity needs are that exist in your community is by connecting with community leaders, going to those anchor institutions, and really understanding it that way. And of course, digital inclusion, this is the work. So it's those activities that are necessary in achieving digital equity. So that looks like access to reliable and affordable high-speed internet, access to affordable and appropriate devices, providing digital skills training and support. And we're going to go into a few details in the next few slides about what those activities really look like. But before I do that, I want to do a Padlet activity. So I believe Shauna has put into the chat of where you can go for the link. And in that link, I want y'all to kind of reflect on what prevents people in your community from consistently connecting to the internet and using it effectively. So while you reflect on that and kind of answer those questions on the Padlet, let me pause my screen share so I can share that on my screen as well. So the question is, what prevents people in your community from consistently connecting to the internet and using it effectively? And to add a comment, you would go ahead to the bottom right, click on this plus sign, you'll see that, and then you go ahead and click that plus sign and it will add your comment. Okay, I see here somebody saying cost. Yes, the cost of starting up with a new internet service provider can be very expensive for some. Also, it can be a very confusing process if you want to call up an internet service provider to start a service. That can be a long-winded and potentially frustrating experience, as some of us may know. Somebody said indifference. That's a really good, that's a unique word that's actually the first time I've seen that word show up in this activity. And that's, yeah, Sarah, if you ever want to just kind of elaborate more in the chat about what you mean by that, but there's definitely indifference in terms of like, what is the point of going on the internet? What is the benefit of it for me, especially for folks who have fears around using the internet? They might have fears on their data or their private information leaking, or, they're immensely afraid of scams. And those are all very valid fears. But it's about kind of, teaching them that there are skills that you can use and things that you can look out for and skills you can build on so you can see like, okay, that is a scam. That link isn't going to lead me anywhere good. That link is going to destroy my device or something like that. And also know how to properly have passwords set up. So on our Digital Inclusion Week webpage, we have a list of all of the events that are happening. And since it's Cybersecurity Awareness Day, I believe that was yesterday, there's a lot of folks who are partnering with local organizations to provide like digital skills training specifically focused on cybersecurity. So that's definitely one of the barriers. Access to resources. Yes, there's a lot of great community programs, but community members might not know they exist, or it is difficult to access them. Lack of affordable plans from internet service providers. Thank you again, Victoria. User friendliness of applications. Thank you for saying that. There might be like word counts, like you need to have at least a minimum of 2 words in order to submit an application, but there are last names that have only 2 words. So how is that gonna happen, right? And also people might be overwhelmed with the application process. And so folks like our digital navigators or, can help them walk through that application process. Lack of skills, absolutely. Haley says access, rural area, not many serve our area. Yes. Discontinuation of ACP, access to assisted devices for people with disabilities. Absolutely. Thank you all for participating and sharing all the kind of the unique barriers that you've seen from your community that makes it difficult for them to connect online. So let me just pause my screen share and then we can get back to the slides. All right. So here are just some more, barriers to digital inclusion in case we haven't covered all of them. So with broadband, somebody talked about price. I mean, like the cost of both internet service and devices can be very expensive. Also not having a reliable source, a reliable service. So if the weather goes out, or if there's too many people, if the bandwidth isn't high enough, that can be a limitation, right? If there's a lot of people in the household that's using the internet for studying online, or if there is, a weather, let's say a hurricane of some sort, or a natural disaster, and you're not able to connect to the internet because of that, that's going to be very distressing, especially during times of need and needing to connect and find resources in your area. Devices, again, so if your device has an outdated software, that's going to be a huge barrier because then you're going to have to think about, okay, I need to get a new device that will be compatible to whatever software I need that device for. And then the device also not matching the needs of the user. So if a person needs to make a call, but they have only a tablet, you can only make a call if you have a cellular data plan on it. So that can be another barrier there. And then with skills, some folks have pointed out the limited skills, limited digital inclusion skills. There's also fear and shame there, fear of, I should have already known this, that shame of like, I feel silly asking this question, but what is right click, right? But these are all valid questions that we have. And then also inaccessible trainings, whether it's not accessible for the people that you're trying to serve, whether it's location-wise, whether it's the layout of the classroom and the building, and also the speakers, the presenters, if they're not speaking the same language or coming from that lived experience, or even time. The time that it's set can drastically impact if people can access the training or not. Hey, Usman, and anybody who has any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type it in the Q&A chat, and then we can address it there, just so that we can keep the conversation moving. Appreciate you.
Yes. So, Bama, I have already put my question in the chat. If you can answer, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Usman. I will, we can go, I see that Sean has answered that, but we can, again, address that during the Q&A. So appreciate you for putting in the chat. And then...
Yes, I have put my question in the chat. You can see from there.
Okay, yeah, we will go ahead and address that in the Q&A section. We have that at like the last 10 minutes. So thank you so much. And next up, we have the solution. So this is kind of the road to digital equity, kind of hitting all of these different prongs. We see that every type of community kind of has these certain needs. Some might be more heightened than others, but these are kind of the different ways that we achieve digital equity. So making sure that we have affordable high-speed internet, affordable appropriate devices, digital skills training, and tech support. So first up is the issue of broadband. So broadband, that's the definition. It's the transmission of wide bandwidth data over high-speed internet connection. And this year in March, the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, they updated their definition of the minimum standard for broadband speeds to be 100 megabits per second for downloading and 20 megabits per second for uploading. And so while that's great and up to date for the speeds that are needed now, it still doesn't answer the big question of if households have access to the internet and it's free, why aren't people still being able to go online, or why aren't they able to have a home internet subscription or really adopt the internet? And that's because we're still making sure we need to address issues of digital skills and also the device and also cost, right? So this is where the term broadband adoption comes in. So this is daily access to the internet at high speeds, high quality and capacity that is necessary to accomplish a task that you want to do, like whether it's paying your utility bills or streaming a new episode or, listening to a podcast or playing a game. And along with the digital skills necessary to participate, and then also on a personal device and on a secure, convenient network. And so one of the resources that NDIA has provided, and it's also in the resource document, is the honor roll of low-cost internet plans. So NDIA has compiled a list of current offers from internet service providers that have plans with speeds at or above the threshold of 100 megabits for downloading and 20 megabits for uploading. Also, the plans included there in terms of cost have a monthly subscription of $30 per month, the highest. And then also the plans that are included there have either no data caps or above 1 terabyte. So if you are looking to support a community member in finding low-cost internet plans in their area, definitely utilize this page. This page is made for you in terms of helping community members, find affordable internet plans that work for them. Another thing that we have is our newly updated Digital Inclusion Program Manual. So it was recently launched, I think very recent. I think it was launched for Digital Inclusion Week, and NDIA partnered with Dell Technologies and members of the NDIA community in creating this resource. It's full of best practices and recommendations from our digital inclusion community. So in this manual, you're going to find best practices for developing digital inclusion programs, recommendations and examples from program models and techniques, as well as guidance for how to create and make sure that your digital inclusion program is sustainable for the future. And you're also going to be learning about community engagement, evaluation, and how to create strategic partnerships, because partnerships is how we continue this work moving forward, because we can't solve the digital divide by just one organization or one person. And excited to announce that we have a webinar about the program manual. It's going to be tomorrow. So if you are new or want to learn how to improve your work as a digital inclusion practitioner, go ahead and attend that webinar. We're going to do a run through about the program manual, as well as teaching you how to use it. So that will be tomorrow, October 10 at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be our final Digital Inclusion Week event from NDIA. So make sure you go ahead and register, and we'll see you there. All right. So another solution to cover is devices and making sure that they're appropriate and affordable. So device ownership and access, it's essential for digital equity. Just thinking about how crucial a device is for your day-to-day activities. Like think about, can you do your job if it only had to be on your phone? For some people, it's a yes. For most, especially now working remotely, most of it, it's a no. Or if you can do it on your phone, there's going to be limited ability or limited functions. Even just thinking about, even self-care and how you use your free time, how much of that is with devices, or even checking on your medications or reminders or helping you function throughout the day, assistive devices or softwares as well. That's how crucial device ownership is in this kind of prong of digital equity. And so here is a chart, AARP and the Institute for Local Self-Reliance and NDIA kind of partnered together to create this nice list of pros and cons of each different device. So if you go ahead and click on that link, it's also on the resource doc. You can see a more expanded table, and it also includes a desktop. But it's just kind of going over the pros and cons of each device, because that can be helpful in terms of, matching the needs of the user so that they're putting their money in what makes sense for them in terms of their budget as well as what they need the internet for. So mobile phones, they're great because they're small, portable. They have a long battery life, but it does not replace a laptop. So if you're going to be working from home or you need to use a software that is not, you can only use that on either a tablet or a specific type of laptop, then a mobile phone is not going to replace everything that you can do there, right? So light browsing, communicating, using apps, a mobile phone is really great for that. The second one there is tablets. So it's great for, binge watching Netflix, or great for entertainment, nice long battery life. That touchscreen keyboard provides more accessibility. It's bigger, it's a larger display, and also you can, it's an easier interface with that touchscreen and navigating between different types of keyboards. And then also kind of talking about if it matches the needs of the user. Again, if somebody wants to make a call on it, they would need that cellular data plan. So it's not usually included when you get a tablet. And there are certain apps that don't work for tablets, that either the app doesn't exist, or if the app it's not really created for the tablet. So it just looks like a larger version of what should be on your phone. And then lastly is laptop. So if you're a community member that is looking to work from home or is studying, this is the device that you need. Oftentimes it's mandatory for jobs. There's larger storage files, shorter battery life, however, and affordability wise, it is the most expensive. But these are kind of like the main three devices. But Digitunity, they are a nonprofit that really focuses on the device aspect of digital inclusion. They kind of created this device essentials for digital equity, kind of a framework of, these are kind of the primary, right? Think about your primary colors. These are kind of the primary devices, but what are those other devices that you need in order to work and engage online, right? So in terms of work, that could include like having a second monitor. I think a lot of us need a second monitor to do our jobs. And another thing is if you need a webcam, let's say, you only have your device doesn't have a webcam, but you need that for work or for school or for whatever type of appointments you're taking, then you're gonna have to get that webcam. Microphones or speakers or, Bluetooth headphones, a wireless keyboard or a mouse. And also including the trainings as well, like cybersecurity trainings, making sure that you know how to use your device safely. And then if you need to get like a portable charger, all of those things, they kind of still fit within within this category of devices. And so just another kind of thing to point out there, that these kind of three main devices that we usually think about, they're not the only things. And when we think about digital inclusion, we have to think about the whole aspect of what device, how many devices they actually need in terms of participating online. And so here's a best practice from one of our affiliates, the Camden Institute. So what they're doing that is really great is they provide low-cost devices to community members and nonprofits, which kind of helps promote and support sustainability and the device ecosystem in their community. And they also build digital skills capacity and tech support by providing digital skills classes to their community members as well. And we often see that happening where sometimes a device distributor, they might partner with a community organization that's doing digital inclusion courses, and they'll host an event where they'll get like a digital device on top of a digital skills training course. Or if they complete a digital skills training course, then they will receive a device. So that's kind of how we see that happening in tandem. There are quite a few Digital Inclusion Week events that are happening that kind of does that type of partnership and collaboration. And then next up, we have digital skills. So here at NDIA, we recommend Essential Digital Skills Framework. So this is intended to support adults seeking to improve their digital skills. So some of the essentials here include knowing how to turn your device on and off, knowing how to check the battery of your device when it needs to be recharged, knowing what the controls are on your device, right? So if you have a phone, do you know what button turns your device on and off, or where do you go to silence your notifications or increase or decrease the volume? How do you get back to the home screen? Things like that. And the best practice that we have here is Community Tech Network. So Community Tech Network, they are a nonprofit based out in California, I believe, and they're doing really great work in terms of making sure that their trainers are coming from those communities that, you know, they're going to be training. So for example, they strategically hire staff that speak that native language and come from that lived experience, so that that training can be more personable, more relatable, and it allows folks to truly understand and also ask any questions that they might be hesitant to asking. So some of the staff that they hire can provide trainings in English, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Tagalog, Korean, Vietnamese, and Russian. And so this is just kind of one example of a community organization that makes sure that they're centering digital equity, centering equity practices in terms of hiring and making sure that they can reach their community members in that unique way. Another resource that we have here is our digital skills curriculum posts. So this post, it provides resources on developing a digital skills framework. So if you're kind of tasked in doing that, this would be a great resource for you. There's a list and a table on there of all the digital skills programs that are free. And it also includes a list of which ones are multilingual programs, which ones have special features like facilitator support. And earlier we had shared that there is a digital inclusion kind of workbook. So if you kind of after this, you know, you want to take this workbook and kind of go through the different questions just to kind of have a better sense of what digital inclusion looks like in your community. This is one of the reflection questions. So kind of think about like, what digital skills does your community want to learn, right? Whether it's there's so many different types of communities, right? So whether it's a specific age group, a specific ethnic group, or even just, you know, your neighbors, thinking about that, or your friend group, like what current digital skills are your communities wanting to learn? And then after that, which program would you recommend for specific populations, right? Think about the different populations that exist in your community. If you want to learn more about that, definitely check out your state's digital equity plan. They will list out the different, you know, covered populations there, as well as the unique kind of the digital inclusion landscape, how it uniquely looks like in your community. And then we have digital navigators. So if anyone's a digital navigator here, just a shout out, because y'all are doing amazing work, just like the rest of you. But I just love kind of spotlighting digital navigators. So we've covered important aspects of digital inclusion work, like broadband adoption, affordable devices, and digital skills. And one crucial element in connecting our community members to the internet are the digital navigators. So digital navigators are individuals who address the whole digital inclusion process with the community members through repeated interactions. So they help community members find an affordable internet plan. So they might be looking at that honor roll that I shared earlier to see which, you know, internet plan works best for them and their budget. They also help them find a refurbished or low-cost device. And then they could also possibly help them expand their digital skills as well. So it's a holistic approach glued together by empathy. And I love sharing this quote. It's Dave Sevik, the executive director of Computer Reach. Computer Reach, they are a nonprofit and they refurbish computers and send digital navigators into the home in both urban and rural homes throughout Pennsylvania. And he said on a Building for Digital Equity podcast that when you're a digital navigator, it's 80% social work and 20% tech. So really emphasizing that key element of empathy and making sure people feel comfortable, because you could learn the tech aspect of it, but truly it's that, you know, that human to human relation that makes, that sets digital navigators apart. So an example of some best practices from digital navigators is the Denver Public Library. So digital navigators in that library, they're coming from the communities they serve, kind of similar to the Community Tech Network that I shared earlier. And they provide resources to the greater digital navigator community, as well as making sure that, you know, they're customizing whatever that community member needs. They're centering it based off their needs. And here is the Digital Navigator resource page. So if you are interested in learning more about the Digital Navigator model, there's a skills assessment, there's a follow-up survey, there's also this webinar, the Digital Navigator 101 webinar, so you can learn more about that. Definitely utilize this page here for you. And then lastly, I'll be talking about digital inclusion coalitions. So digital inclusion coalitions, the great thing about them is that they serve as a purpose, many purposes, but one of them is to know that you are not alone in the work that you do. You know, digital inclusion coalitions, they are a collective of community organizations that share the same concern that you have in terms of providing digital inclusion into your community. So these organizations can look like local government, libraries, education institutions, housing authorities, workforce development, and sometimes tech companies, sometimes internet service providers, as well as social service and civic organizations. And these are kind of just like the three type of magic that can happen in a digital inclusion coalition, right? So the first one is the advocacy effect. So coalitions are uniquely positioned to raise awareness about their community's digital inclusion issue. Another kind of unique effect that comes from digital inclusion coalitions and being part of a coalition is that they have a unique position in aligning the community organization's vast perspectives into focusing it towards digital equity and having that digital equity alignment there. And then lastly is that network effect. So coalition members, those community organizations, they're able to learn from each other, able to learn best practices, and there's also potential there for potential partnerships and collaboration. You know, if the goal here is digital equity, what unique solutions can our unique organizations do, and how can we create an event to help, you know, address the different prongs? So maybe it's, you know, partnering again with like a device distribution and then providing digital skills, or the digital training is kind of going side by side with the hospital there and talking about telehealth and how to use that specific app. So there's a lot of like unique things that can come about when you're part of a digital inclusion coalition. And so these collective of organizations, they're shaped by the community and they advocate for digital equity. So they can help with raising funding for digital inclusion programs. They can help with building political support for public investment. And also here is our Digital Inclusion Coalition map. So if you're seeing this and you're part of a coalition and you're like, my state isn't, you know, there should be a red dot where I'm at and I don't see it. That's because this was taken in 2022. And at that time, there was a total of 51 coalitions, and we had put out a survey and 51 coalitions submitted it. But now we are actually conducting a new coalition survey to better understand what the coalition landscape looks like now so we can best support you. So if you are part of a digital inclusion coalition, go ahead and let your coalition leader, or if you are a coalition leader, make sure to assign someone to fill out the coalition survey form by November 15. That way we can include you into our findings. And so what we're going to do with the findings is that NDIA will publish a summary on our coalition's webpage, as well as we're going to have a directory of all of the coalitions and an interactive map so that people can find you. So if you want to be on that map, go ahead and fill out that coalition survey. And here is just a best practice. So Y-Zone, a great program, a great coalition. So Westchester County Association, they partnered with City of Yonkers, Yonkers Partners in Education, the STEM Alliance, and their Digital Navigator program, and Fordham University. And so what they did was they helped eligible residents apply for the Affordable Connectivity Program. It helped increase the participants' financial literacy, healthcare literacy, build out their digital skills so that they can be more competitive in the workforce. And also just some great findings of 94% of their participants were able to continue to stay in touch with their family members. They felt more comfortable with using the internet. And they were also, because of the program, were able to save time on their day-to-day activities. So this is, again, just another example of the great things that can happen when you are part of a coalition, and also, you know, creating strategic partnerships as well. And another thing I want to plug is our Digital Inclusion Trailblazers. So what are Digital Inclusion Trailblazers? They are municipal, county, or regional governments that are paving the way and providing excellent models for digitally inclusive communities. So they demonstrate how local governments can support their own digital inclusion ecosystem. And they also serve as an open knowledge database. So if you check out our Digital Inclusion Trailblazer page, you will see all of the materials that county or regional governments have submitted. So job descriptions, survey templates, digital equity strategies. It's a great place to look if you want to see how like the digital divide impacts unique communities, because you'll see it listed out there. And we are actually hosting, or we have a live Digital Inclusion Trailblazer 2024 application. And that closes November 1st. So if you are part of local government, so municipalities, townships, counties, or regional government, or if you're not part of your local government, reach out to your local government and encourage them to apply. That'll be November 1st is the deadline for that. All right, so now I will pass it over to Shauna, who can talk more about policy.
Okay, everyone. Hi. I'm going to talk about some policies that are important for digital equity and digital inclusion work. The first one is the Digital Equity Act. And you may have heard about the Digital Equity Act, but I'm just going to do a quick overview of it and then talk about each of the programs. The Digital Equity Act, or the DEA, was authorized by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the IIJA of 2021. The DEA included $2.75 billion for 3 buckets of funding: the Planning Grant Program, the Capacity Grant Program, and the Competitive Grant Program. The first set of funds in the Digital Equity Act was the State Planning Grant Program. That grant period has ended, and now all states, for the first time in history, have a digital equity plan. The second is the State Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program. Applications for states has already closed, and the first state award was made to Nevada on June 26th of this year, and other states will receive their funding on a rolling basis. The Native Entities Capacity Grant Program funds are also included in this bucket of funding. The application for Native entities opened on September 25th and closes on February 7th. And lastly, we have the Competitive Grant Program, which began with the release of the NOFO on July 24th of this year, and applications were due on September 23rd. NTIA expects to start awarding funds in the winter of this year. Okay, so the State Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program includes $840 million available to states, territories, and Native entities. The states will use these funds to put their digital equity plans into action. So the plans that they created with the first bucket of funds, this group of funds is to actually do the things they said they would do in the plan. And this matters to the NDIA community and you folks, because states may award subgrants to organizations doing digital equity work in their state. So over the past 2 years, the states and territories it was a pretty rigorous process to write digital equity plans. And once they're awarded, then they can start the activities. So right now, only 2 states have awards. But as they receive the awards, they can then start. So NTIA does require that the states focus on a few strategies. One of those is focusing on covered populations, which Pamela mentioned before, which is households with an income of not more than 150% of poverty level, aging individuals, incarcerated individuals, veterans, individuals with disabilities, individuals with the language barrier, individuals who are members of a racial or ethnic minority group, and individuals who primarily reside in a rural area. They also must include implementing measurable strategies by collecting and analyzing data to show the success of the activities that are funded by the program. They need to encourage lasting and meaningful change. This means that they want to see sustainable programs that will go beyond the funding duration. And then they also want to see states engaging stakeholders and participants in programs to ensure the digital inclusion activities that they're doing and funding are actually working and supporting the folks that they serve. So states and territories are allowed to subgrant some of their capacity award to eligible entities to help them put digital inclusion activities and put the state's digital equity plan into work. Subawards can work to supplement the state's plan, facilitate digital inclusion activities that align with the plan, and report back to the state on how those activities are going. So if this is something that your organization might be interested in, keep an eye out for your state possibly opening subawards. They have 9 months from the date of their award. So like I said, only 2 states have awards so far to implement a subgrant program. So that will be a future projection to watch for within the next year or so. Some states may choose not to create subgrant programs, and each subgrant program may vary. And if you haven't connected with your state's administrating entity, usually the broadband office, now is the time to do so. They could give you more information if they haven't. Okay, so I want to go over some important details for Native entities. Like I said, the applications for Native entities opened on September 25th and are due by February 7th. In their bucket of funding, they have $45.3 million available for funding, and the grants will range from $500,000 to $2 million. And this funding process for them is competitive, which means that not everyone who applies will get funding. And they expect to begin making awards to Native entities in the summer of 2025, and the funds will likely be on a rolling basis after that. And they have 5 years to complete their programs. So Native entities can use funds without involvements from the states, but if their goals and strategies are aligned with their state, they can align with the state digital equity plan. And these funds can be used for creating a digital equity plan and implementing the plan, or just digital inclusion activities alone, but they can't use the funds just for creating plans. And there are a few limitations that are around the funding for this program. So a few activities can only take up a portion of the award and others are not allowed at all. So funds may be used to provide subgrants to help implement digital inclusion activities, evaluation of a program with a 5% cap, a 3% cap for administrating, and then a 10% cap for subsidies for affordable broadband programs. So they can do programs similar to the Affordable Connectivity Program, and they can't be used for deployment projects. And then lastly, we have the competitive grant program. Even though the application window is closed, I want to do a quick cover of the grant program because you'll likely see new programs pop up over the next several years that are funded by the program. And there are 2 future NOFOs or funding opportunities for this grant as well. So the competitive grant program was released on July 24th. Applications were due on the 23rd, and states, territories have until October 22nd. And the awards for this program are between $5 and $12 million. Anything outside the range must be explained, and territories are limited to $2.5 million. So things that people can do with the digital or the competitive grant can address gaps of the activities and implementation in their state plan, further advance digital equity activities that maybe the state plan failed to address, and really just anything that focuses on advancing digital equity. They, again, must focus on the covered populations. All of these grant programs talk about the covered populations because they're listed in the Digital Equity Act. And again, you'll see enabling long-lasting and meaningful change, measurable, making sure that stakeholders are engaged throughout the process. And some things that people could do with it, digital inclusion activities that benefit the covered populations, broadband adoption for covered populations, which includes education and employment activities, training for basic, advanced, and applied skills. I just want to note here that this covers a wide range of training programs so that applicants can really think about what types of program would be most beneficial for their community. Digital inclusion workforce development programs, new or existing computer labs through Anchor Institution, and then a possibility for anything else the Assistant Secretary may okay. Okay, digital discrimination. So we're shifting away now from the Digital Equity Act to talk about digital discrimination. The rules officially went into effect in March of this year. The rules cover any aspect of broadband internet access service that impedes, impairs, or denies equal access to this service. This can look like discrimination in pricing, customer service, and network and infrastructure upgrades. The rules protect consumers or customers, even if there is no intent to discriminate. This means that if someone was impacted by discrimination, the provider will be responsible even if the discrimination was not intentional. And individuals and communities can and should file complaints with the FCC. And next we have broadband labels. So ISPs with over 100,000 subscribers must display the broadband labels by April 10th of this year. So smaller providers had some extra time. They have until tomorrow, October 10th, to post their labels. So I would encourage you to check and see if you can find the broadband label for your plan. If you go to an internet service page provider's webpage, there should be somewhere in the application process an access to the broadband label. And the broadband label includes details around pricing, introductory rates, data allowances, performance metrics. This last one, the Affordable Connectivity Program, is no longer a funded program through the government, so that one is no longer relevant. This is a great tool for both practitioners, so folks helping people sign up for internet plans, and also consumers themselves can go and find this information. This information didn't used to be required to be posted, so this is a pretty big deal. And lastly, we have our State Digital Equity Implementation Manual. While this manual was created for states to help implement their digital equity plans, it's a great resource for a lot of information on implementing digital inclusion activities, structuring subgrants, and building measurable and sustainable digital inclusion programs and activities. So it can be for more folks than just states. And with that, I think, oops, did I go too far?
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Thank you, Shauna. Appreciate it. And just two more things before, if any of you have any other questions, but we do have NDIA working groups. So if you are kind of doing any work in relation to Coalition, Digital Navigator, or the Digital Equity Cohort, these are the working groups that we have for you. So the first one is the Coalition Working Group. If you are a NDAA affiliate and you are part of a digital inclusion coalition, go ahead and contact Paulo, our senior programs manager. He is the lead for the coalition working group. If you are a NDAA affiliate and part of a digital navigator program, we have a digital navigator working group for you. And we have Abby Waldroup as our contact. So go ahead and contact Abby and she'll get in touch with you on potentially joining. And then also we have a state digital equity cohort. So if you are a NDAA affiliate as well as part of a state broadband office, go ahead and reach out to Ryan. He is our policy program manager and in charge of the state DE cohort, and he'll connect with you to get more information. And then lastly is our Net Inclusion 2025. We are inviting you to join. It's going to be in May 20 to 22 in May 2025. It's going to be in Gila River Indian Community, and we are really excited to have it there. We're going to be talking about, local, state, tribal, and federal policies. We're also going to be talking about digital inclusion best practices from across the country and digital inclusion programming as well. So you're going to learn from digital navigators, digital health equity and accessibility, learning how to serve different populations and making sure that your work is community centered. It's a great place to connect with other digital inclusion practitioners, and it's a great place for new members to meet other new members and kind of hold each other's hand and know that you guys are doing this together. So we do have early bird registration prices open right now. The early bird registration will end November 5th. So if you're looking potentially to save even like $80 on the tickets, go ahead and make sure to get that early bird registration pricing now before the deadline on November 5th. All right. And if you are not part of the NDAA community, go ahead and join, become a friend or an affiliate. You'll have access to our monthly community calls where we have guest speakers from that'll share national resources and on-the-ground strategies. And we also provide policy and funding updates on there as well. And you'll get subscription to our community listserv and receive our monthly newsletters. And with that, I just want to thank all of you for joining us. Thank you for making time during this busy, awesome week of Digital Inclusion Week. If there are any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll spend a few minutes here to answer. There was a question in the Q&A asking if these slides will be provided. Yes, they will. Once this recording is uploaded, I will send the slides, the resources, and the recording to all of those who have registered. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them. And if not, I just want to, again, thank you all for joining. Good luck on your work. Reach out to us if you have any questions or how we can best connect you. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Osman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Pamela, this is from Somalia. I am from Somalia, Osman. I'm one of the lecturer from the private university in Somalia. So my question is that what is the difference between equity and equality? Equality and equity. What are the difference between the first slide was that?
Yeah, great question. So equality. Oh, okay. Just want to make sure I'm not cutting you off. Yeah. So equality it's when everybody gets the same amount of resource, right? So kind of in that picture where there was 6 books, everybody is getting, no matter what needs each individual has, they are going to be allotted the same amount of resources. Equity is more so focusing on making sure that those resources are distributed in a way that matches all of the unique needs of your community members. So it's looking at, what is this community's struggles or issues, or, maybe they need more digital skills, and maybe another community has more focus on devices, things like that. So it's kind of looking deeper into our community and not making sure that we're giving the same solution, a blanket solution, and prescribing that for everybody. It's really understanding those unique needs. And that's where that equity piece comes from, because I'm sure different communities have different experiences, whether it's, you know, their relationship with the government or relationship with a specific community organization, or even how they've come into a specific country. And so their needs will be different. And so that's the difference between equality and equity, is making sure that you're aligning and you're not just giving everybody the same resource and solution.